Hi, I'm Elaine Provenzano. I'm the Children's and Adult Reference Librarian, and I'm very excited to be introducing our program tonight, Jackie Robinson, More Than a Ball Player, with John Vorperian. Jackie Robinson broke Major League Baseball's color line in the modern era, yet did you know that he wrote a nationally syndicated column, founded a bank, created a construction company that exclusively built affordable housing, appeared frequently on Meet the Press, served as a sports team's general manager, and headed a pro sports league as commissioner. And so John is going to share all that and more. So please welcome John.
Thank you, Elaine, for that kind introduction. Friends, I just wanted to share with you that the reason I'm here is thanks to Dr. Richard Zamoff and his brother Barry Zamoff. They were the inspiration or catalyst in creating the Jackie Robinson project at George Washington University, of which I had the great pleasure of going down to DC and talking with students about Robinson, as well as other talks about race, sports, and American society. So with that as a background, this talk concerning Jackie Robinson has been given to groups like yourselves, as well as we've fashioned it for elementary school, middle school, high school, colleges, to talk about Robinson, informal civil rights leader. I'm a sports historian. I've written or contributed to several books on sports history. And it's not sports reporting. It's really, what is a sports historian? It's someone who researches, studies the past with an approach of a wide angle lens. I want to look at things through economics, culture, and so forth. So, and I'm always asking the question when I'm looking at a topic, is sports reflecting us, or is it breaking current norms that indicate that our community is evolving towards a better stage of humankind? And also, having taught at the college level as well as the graduate level, when I teach history, I'm a firm believer that you got to teach history the way it really happened, even the painful parts. As the poet Maya Angelou wrote, history, despite its retching pain, cannot be unlived, but faced with courage and need not be lived again. So sports historians like myself are somewhat not surprised that the historical significance of Jackie Robinson is omitted from the education of the vast majority of American students. Jackie's mystery, so to speak, we know about the baseball, but collectively, I don't think we focus enough on the 15 years after baseball, his post-baseball career. And that's not unusual because, you know what, most students aren't taught about the treatment of Native Americans in American history, the incarceration of Japanese Americans during World War II, about slavery, the African-American experience prior to the 1950s, and the role of the Ku Klux Klan, not in American politics, not just in the Deep South, but in states like Oregon, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Indiana, or anti-Semitism in the United States, to just name a few glaring omissions that aren't expressed or taught enough. So tonight, I'd like to share with you I'll give you three quotes from Jackie Robinson. And really, tonight, if you can walk away with all three in your head, or even one or two, that's great. Let's begin. All right, Jackie's quote here: "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." Essentially, that encompasses the belief of Jackie Robinson, his legacy. Certainly his life impacted many others. But who's the Jackie most people know? Well, he was a Black athlete who broke the color line 76 years ago in Brooklyn. And he was a 313 batting, career batting average, 6-time consecutive All-Star, a Rookie of the Year, MVP. He was born in Cairo, Georgia, January 31st, 1919. His full name is Jack Roosevelt Robinson. Roosevelt's named after Teddy, the president. But that's where it sort of stops. And we just don't simply focus enough on the civil rights aspect of what Jackie did. The statistic I'm going to recite to you is on mark. 5 out of 6 high school graduates will never take another history course again in their lives. So we have a population that is walking around with an absence of history, I call it. So in other words, what you learn in high school, or what you don't learn in high school, or what you mistakenly have been told from high school history, that's what we have. So the idea behind the Jackie Robinson Project was to break out and focus on Robinson, the civil rights leader. So why is Jackie important? Tom Boswell, the Washington Post sports section, said on the 50th anniversary of Jackie breaking the color line, 100 years from now, Walter Johnson and Henry Aaron will be remembered, but only Jackie Robinson will be studied. Juan Williams, on the 40th anniversary, wrote, Jackie Robinson transformed our society on the baseball diamond. After the cheering stopped, Jackie played harder than ever to bring America in keeping with its promise of civil rights, economic liberty, and freedom. And that after the cheering, it's really what we're talking about is the 15 years after a decade of playing pro ball. Let's go back in time just for a moment, just to understand the significance of this one person stepping on that field in Brooklyn. Here are the major sports of America in this time period, 1920s to 1950s. Baseball is known as the national pastime. Then it's followed essentially by horse racing, the sport of kings, boxing. You got your Friday night fights, so to speak. Baseball, I'm going to say, is the major sport because at that period in time, the key revenue source for the sport is gate attendance, people buying tickets to watch the game. And the fact is, we only have 16 teams. Those 16 teams are focused in the Northeast and parts of the Midwest. There are no teams in the South or the far West. And the season itself is from April to October. The rest of the year, it's hot stove talk. Will the team go up? Will it go down? And the other key thing to note is that the players are all of one race. Since it is a gate and attendance-driven sport, let's look at what's going on with the media. Newspapers essentially are the key to getting word out about the game. And so in the 50s, we have over 53 million copies every weekday being issued. Sundays, there's the 46 million papers that the readership is viewing. There's a little cost there to let you know what it is. And there are black newspapers. The best I could do was to find out stats as to the 1940s. There are about 250 black newspapers in the USA. And key to Jackie's arrival with the Dodgers, you really have the writings of Sam Lacey and Wendell Smith, two premier black journalists who cover Jackie and what he is dealing with Major League Baseball and how he's performing with the Dodgers. Radio is the other media device, and essentially America at this time in the 50s, 96% of Americans have a radio. So we're talking over 40 million households. TV is just barely cracking it in the late 40s, 6,000 TV sets. But it is an invention which Americans embrace. Visual, as this PowerPoint is demonstrating, visual is key with us humans. So it is a device that by the mid-50s, half of all US homes have one. I want to also bring up something else that I think is appropriate at this time. When we talk about civil rights, some historians say there are essentially three events in American history of the 20th century that are key in reversing the separate but equal doctrine. I assume most people know, but there was a time where it was okay in our nation that so long as we have equal facilities, whatever that means, it is good or okay to separate the races. That was chipped away with. That was a Supreme Court decision of 1896. That was chipped away with the Brown versus Board of Education decision of May 17th, 1954, outlawing racial segregation in public schools. The second was President Truman, 1948, executive order desegregating the US Army. And third was Jackie Robinson's integration of Major League Baseball. Most sports historians would say that Robinson's integration was the key event. If for no other reason than the fact that it came first, it was a year before the Army order, 7 years before Brown, and almost a decade before most Americans had ever heard about Rosa Parks or a young minister from Atlanta named Dr. Martin Luther King. Jackie grew up in a family that was run by a single parent, Mally Robinson. His dad left, did not stick around. Jackie was born, as I said, in 1919, and Mally decided to move the family from Cairo, Georgia, to Pasadena, California, in the hopes of opportunity. What was Pasadena, California like back then? The idea was that, you know what, African Americans might get a middle class life, but what messes it up is the 1929 Great Depression. And then in the 1930s, you had the Great Migration, where a sizable number of poor, rural Southern Africans are moving out of the South and into the North and into the far West. And they arrive in Pasadena. Those that do encounter job discrimination, segregated housing, segregated public facilities, pools, parks, hospitals, clinics, schools, and Wednesday, I believe, is the day, it may have been Wednesday, just like this day of the week, where Blacks could use the public pools. Why do I say this? Let's look at the population breakouts. In the 1920s, the law, now forgive me, this is not Pasadena, but it is encompassing Southern California, primarily Metro Los Angeles. But roughly speaking, 1920s, you have a 500,000 population, which 15,000 African Americans comprise of that pool. Compton is a white neighborhood, but around Southern Cal, there are enclaves of middle-class hamlets, portions, sections owned by Black homeowners. By 1930, again, we're in a depression, those middle-class, postage-sized lot, single-family detached houses, they're not available, they're not there. In 1930s, as I said, it's a white-dominated town, and also we have extensive redlining, essentially lenders not providing mortgages in areas, redlining Blacks out of certain locations. And yes, there are historical instances of realty agents who do engage in redlining, losing their license. Also, before we came on tonight to talk, we did mention an incident which will be discussed in this talk. Jackie is a young person growing up in this type of surrounding, does start to go down a path. He is enraged by injustice. And in fact, you can tell I'm not only a lawyer, but a professor. I want to be precise. But I do want to say that in growing up as a teenager, he is arrested at one point because he defends a friend who wrongfully is arrested by the police. And this is something I think is in his makeup, that Branch Rickey recognized, that he will confront injustice. But the Reverend Carl Downs makes a mentorship with Robinson and talks about going to church. His brothers, both good athletes, put him in the path of following athletics as a way to get rid of frustration and so forth. And this doesn't come lightly. Mac Robinson is a track star. In fact, in the 1936 Olympics, Mac took home silver. You see on the far right-hand side, that's Mac saluting the American flag. Jesse Owens is on the top step with the gold medal. And again, going back to Pasadena, Mac comes home to Pasadena, and it's sad to say, but he did get a job with the sanitation department, but it would not be unusual to see him wearing his Olympic sweater as he's picking up trash. Again, the job discrimination or not being promoted. But Jackie channels his energies into athletics. At the high school, 5 sports, 4 letters. He goes on to Pasadena Community College, and Frank Robinson has a fatal traffic accident, one of his brothers, so he wants to be closer, and the opportunity arises to transfer to UCLA. He does so. He meets his future wife at UCLA, Rachel Isom. There at UCLA, his first and sole, he still has it. He's the only 4-lettered UCLA Bruin in 4 sports. Anyone like to take a guess as to what his best sport was? Football. Give that man in the front row an award indeed. And one of the times I was giving this talk and I had the opportunity to check, as recently, well, I guess it isn't recent, but 2012, the statistics for UCLA football indicated that Robinson was still at the top of the list for yards per carry. So it was interesting and sort of blew my mind that he was at the top of their record books. The other interesting thing about the UCLA Bruins of that period is they are an integrated squad. They are a good football team. And another key mention is some of the teammates that Robinson had were Woody Strode, who did go on to play professional football initially in 1946, breaking the NFL's what I call the reintegration of the NFL, along with Kenny Washington. And that's a talk for another day, the reintegration of pro football. But Woody Strode also, aside from being a football player, goes into acting. Anyone who's seen Spartacus, that Woody Strode has a key scene with Kirk Douglas. And also on that team, one of Jackie's teammates is Tom Bradley, who goes into law enforcement and becomes the first Black mayor of Los Angeles. Okay, I said 3 quotes, and here, let's go back one. And here's another key standard or another quote as to Robinson, and I call this just simply human dignity. I'm not concerned with your liking or disliking me. All I ask is that you respect me as a human being. And that respect gets tested because in 42, Robinson is inducted or drafted into the US Army. His initial assignment is at Fort Riley in Kansas. Then he's transferred to Fort Hood in Texas. Arnold Rampersad, Robinson's biographer, did talk in the book about some of the experiences that Robinson had at Fort Hood. The key one is that, well, I'll just go for one passage. Jack quickly found that his lieutenant bars meant little to whites at Camp Hood. Black soldiers and civilians had to deal with raw aspects of Jim Crow. Black soldiers were quartered in the least desirable part of the camp, makeshift housing, separate USO, separate officers club. You venture off of the base, you face hostile, narrow-minded local population. One Black officer said, I even saw outhouses marked white, colored, and Mexican. And this was on federal property. July 6, 1944, Robinson encounters that local hostility. He's on a military bus, and the driver instructs him, you got to go to the back. You got to go to the back. And that resulted in a court-martial, which was defeated because there was no segregation on a military bus. Robinson later said, I learned I was in two wars, one against a foreign enemy and one against discrimination at home. After the military, Robinson channels his athletic abilities. He first goes to play for the Los Angeles Bulldogs, a pro or minor league pro team. He is offered by Reverend Carl Downs, sets up a athletic directorship for him in Austin, Texas with Samuel Huston College. Really, it doesn't work out because the Kansas City Monarchs, remember I said the major leagues were all one race, two leagues, National and American. Well, if you were a baseball player and you happen to be Black, you play for one of the Negro League teams. Where do these teams play? They play in the stadiums of the major league teams. So when the New York Yankees are away from the Bronx, the Black Yankees are playing in Yankee Stadium. It was away again. Remember what I was saying about gate? The major league teams are renting the stadium to the Negro League team. The major league team gets a cut of the gate. So this is where Robinson gets an offer from the Kansas City Monarchs, legendary squad with Satchel Paige. He's there for only 5 months. It's not a great experience for him because Robinson is somewhat disillusioned by the gaming interests that do have their claws into the Negro Leagues. I'll rephrase that. Some of the clubs are owned by people that are involved in the gray economy, so to speak, numbers running, nightclubs, and the like. I mean, who's going to have the money to pay for a professional team? It's usually going to be someone with the ability to do business, and that's one item. The other item that he does talk about is the disorganization. You can imagine if you're traveling from one stadium to another, you really don't have a home field per se, and the like. So he was really thinking of moving on. He's approached by Clyde Sukeforth of the Brooklyn Dodgers because Branch Rickey lets it be known that he is going to actually have a Negro League team, the Brooklyn Brown Dodgers. That's the cover story. That's not true. That was just something Rickey put out there because Rickey was going to make and this is from one of the associates from George Washington University, one of the professors there, whose name has escaped my diary, but I heard this prof state, Branch Rickey was to make the most important personnel decision in the 20th century, and Rickey was alone. 15 of the then 16 major league owners voted to oppose Rickey's plan to integrate Major League Baseball. But this partnership of Robinson and Rickey is very important. August of 1942 in Brooklyn, 3-hour conversation or session between Rickey and Robinson. And just some of the highlights, Rickey lays it out that we are alone. Not going to get support from the umpires, not going to get support from the owners. Fans are going to be not necessarily behind us. Most of the papers, the sporting news is against this idea. And Rickey has a demonstration he puts Robinson through, basically getting in his face, saying they're going to throw beanballs at you. They're going to call you dirty names. They're going to talk. Can you take this without losing your temper? And the reply, the question actually that Robinson poses, are you looking for a Negro who is afraid to fight back? Robinson, I'm looking for a ball player with guts enough not to fight back. You got to win this thing with hitting and throwing, fielding, ground balls, nothing else. And we know that the agreement's made. There is a reprieve. Rickey only asked Robinson just to put up with this for only a certain time period, and then free. But again, I just want to emphasize, it's no easy time. He's north of the border. He's assigned to the Montreal Royals. Please look at those cities that I've listed there. Baltimore, Buffalo. Okay, I'll give you one out of all those is in the South. That's the old line state, Baltimore. But Robinson encounters number of racial incidents. Watermelons are rolled onto the field. A black cat is thrown. The black cat happens in Syracuse, in the Empire State, Syracuse. Some knuckleheads throw a black cat onto the field, saying, hey, Robinson, here's your cousin. The next at bat Robinson has, he actually hits a stand-up triple. And from third base, he turns to that section and he says, well, I guess my cousin's happy now. I also had the opportunity to interview a teammate of Robinson in Montreal, the late Jack Randall. He was Greenberg, New York Recreation Department. And Jack shared with a group of Sabre members his minor league career. He was a Dodger product. And only in passing to the group, he mentioned 46 and Montreal, but he really emphasized his time in Newport News, because at Newport News, there was Gil Hodges, there was Chuck Connors, who went on to Hollywood fame as the Rifleman. And when I heard that, I actually took him out to lunch, and I said, tell me about Robinson, because Randall was the second baseman. He was right next to Jackie while he was there in Montreal. They were in the clubhouse. Their lockers were next to one another. And Jack shared with me that even in Montreal, Robinson got hate mail. May not have been from Canada, it may have been somewhere else, but that's all I learned. And this is a discussion being had by two folks. It must have been in 2002. And even then, talking about the subject, I just saw Randall's face just swell up with tears, just to know what he saw and what Jackie had put up with. April 1946. This happens opening day in Jersey City, second at bat, packed crowd. It's a packed crowd in Jersey City. Why? The mayor is Frank Hague. Jersey City is known as a one of the most corrupt cities in the USA. Hague essentially has an off day for municipal workers. They pack the stadium. And at the second at bat, Jackie Robinson hits a home run. He is the first Black in the 20th century in organized baseball. But rounding the bases, coming home to touch the plate, the audience gets quiet. And what is occurring is people are turning one, what's going to happen next? Who's the guy on deck? What is he going to do? Shotgun Shuba from the coal mines, and forgive me, I believe either Pennsylvania or Ohio, I've forgotten. And what's worse is I've talked with Shotgun before he passed, talking about this experience. And he said, I was raised, you do the right thing. Your teammate has just hit a home run. So that's a breakthrough. Here's another breakthrough. 67 years ago. Oh, excuse me, 76 years ago. Ebbets Field, not a great day in baseball per se for Jackie, but a great day for the USA, because we actually see now a Black player who now gets rid of the 60-year rule of just white ball in the bigs. Okay, that's a 5-3 Dodger win over the Boston Braves. But as I said earlier, Jackie has a spectacular baseball career. Something else, and as an active player, in the 1950s, he stars in a movie that features his life. Ruby Dee from Westchester, New Rochelle, is there portraying Rachel. Also, the year before, again, talking about culture and entertainment, a hit on the hit parade is the song, Did You See Jackie Robinson Hit That Ball? By Woodrow Wilson Johnson, better known as Buddy Johnson. And there are multiple films about Robinson. I just want to share with you just some of the flicks that one can see. But let's fast forward to the 15 years after baseball. If we were still talking baseball, in 1956, the Dodgers do not do what they did in 55, which is win the World Series. And in fact, in the 56 World Series, Robinson strikes out. That's his last appearance at a plate. The Dodgers look to trade him to, unbelievably, the New York Giants. And the New York Giants and the Dodgers have a long storied rivalry. So rather, it's mind-boggling. I can't think of anything compatible. But again, the idea of Robinson being a Giant, actually earlier on, he had decided to retire at 37. He had been in communication with William Black, the president of Chock Full and Nuts, and he was going to work as a business executive with that corporation. He's a first ballot inductee in the Hall of Fame in 1962. I just wanted to point that out. And something else that is out there in the writings of Robinson, in being considered for the Hall, he made it explicit that he wanted to go into Cooperstown based strictly on his baseball abilities. But here's the third and final quote of tonight, what I call engagement. Action, not words. And if you go to, I think in Citi Field, they've got this up there. Life is not a spectator sport. If you're going to spend your whole life in the grandstand just watching what goes on, in my opinion, you're wasting your life. And clearly, Jackie Robinson does not waste his time after baseball. He's the league leader, 7 appearances on Meet the Press. He's the first athlete to appear on that news show. And you can see that the topic is the ERA and whether the shift is, oh, wait a minute. the discussion about civil rights and Jack's work with the NAACP. And the 6 other times he's talking about social policy as well on Meet the Press, not the light candy stuff of sports per se. He also has a radio show, a newspaper column. In 1965, he becomes the first Black personality as a sport on a sports network. It's ABC's Major League Baseball. I think no, ABC's Game of the Week, and he's hired as an analyst, but he is the first Black person in that capacity for a major TV network. So you have this media front that Jackie is doing. He hasn't forgotten the important thing of civil rights, of getting things together. Because another aspect that some historians have pointed out is Black-white relations in the United States in the 20th century can be essentially divided into 2 periods: before Robinson and after Robinson. Columnist George Will said that Jackie is the 2nd most important African-American in the history of the United States. And Jackie's teammate, pitcher Don Newcomb, said, "I remember Martin Luther King Jr. saying on many occasions, 'You will never know how much easier it was for me because of Jackie Robinson.'" It's useful to keep in mind that Dr. Martin Luther King was 16 years old when Jackie alone was out there in the forefront, breaking down barriers. It's not taking anything away from Dr. King, nor the Southern Christian Leadership Council, nor the support of people here in Westchester for Dr. King. But Jackie had to do a lot by himself. Also, he was a political influencer. In other words, before Jesse Jackson, long before Al Sharpton, Jackie placed himself, not for elective office, but placed himself involved with politics. He communicated directly with 4 different US presidents, primarily on civil rights issue: Ike, JFK, Nixon, and LBJ. He met with congressional people, senators, business leaders, always fighting for human rights. In the 1960 campaign, he had to make a decision between Kennedy and Nixon, met with both, and he felt that Nixon would be better on civil rights. Went on the campaign trail, no stranger to pushing a particular candidate. In fact, in '64, the very next presidential run, he is one of 6 national directors for Governor Nelson Rockefeller of New York's presidential bid. And unfortunately, out in San Francisco at the '64 GOP convention, Rocky doesn't get the nod. It does go to Arizona Senator Barry Goldwater. Goldwater's position on the civil rights bill is no, not to promote it. That causes a schism between Robinson and the Republicans. Although he is appointed as Governor Rockefeller's advisor in '66, he also is served as New York State Athletic Commissioner. The '68 election, he backs Humphrey. And also, let's not stay within just the continental USA. Jackie is a global influencer. Aside from politics, community action. He is everywhere with regards to civil rights and as well as education, arts. Jackie is there. And this is no surprise because even prior to that, Jackie is talking to young and old alike. That's an image of him at City College. No stranger to the microphone. 1954, he's there with at a Manhattan School for the Boys with the former First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. Again, I'll try and keep this Westchester centric. I shared this with the late Ted Lee. If you look in White Plains, there's the Lee Funeral Home. And Teddy shared with me that just one day, he and the gang, the young boys, are all at the White Plains YMCA. And who comes in is Jackie Robinson. And just spur of the moment, engages with them. And these stories, I've given talks, and people have pulled me aside afterwards and said, by the way, in this community that I used to live in, Jackie was there. So he understood the importance of being out front, being engaged to talk about this, talk about human rights. And again, I said global influencer. Here he is talking to a bunch of students on the continent of Africa. Now, if I say the country, I'll ask the question, which president's father just happened to be sitting in the audience for this particular talk by Jackie Robinson? Barack Obama's father was there. Jackie went to Kenya, and this is, again, talking about, I would say, another key fact that he was involved with, understanding the importance of economic development. That so Jackie, as Elaine mentioned in the introduction of this talk, founded a bank that would permit loans to go to a community that had been marginalized, to businesses, to those that mainstream banks automatically redline. It's the Freedom National Bank. It was based in Harlem. It was Black owned, Black operated. Jackie was one of the founders. He also served as chairman of the board of this bank. And again, just focusing on his corporate business activities, with chock full of nuts. He was involved with labor relations and visiting their facilities, dialoguing with employees. The man who was on the go, always looking to better things. With regards to starting his own construction company to create affordable housing. And that was started in 1970 by Jackie. And in fact, one of the sites is in Yonkers. I've forgotten whether it's on Warburton or Nepperhan. That apartment complex was purchased by another baseball player who wore the number 42. And he did not play for just one team. He played for the last team to integrate in the major leagues, in the American League, trying to give a hint there. And he also played here in the Big Apple for a team that does not play in the Bronx. So with that hint, what number 42 ended up purchasing the Jackie Robinson?
That's not Larry Doby.
No, but Doby is Jackie's contemporary, who Doby integrated the American League, but actually it was Mo Vaughn who played for the Red Sox and New York Mets. Mo, after baseball, was involved with his company is called Omni New York, and again, it focuses on affordable housing and also working with Section 8 sites and so forth. Jackie does not leave the athletic field because aside from all these executive positions in commercial operations, what better commercial operation can it be than sports? He also is a general manager. He was general manager for the Brooklyn Dodgers of the Continental Football League, and also served as a commissioner for that league. And that's a program cover. He was honored in Montreal in a game between the Montreal team and the Brooklyn squad. If you'd like more information about Jackie, these are just some suggested titles, or if you want to pick up a title and contribute to your library, I'm sure Elaine would love that to happen here at the Tuckahoe Public Library. Maybe imprint in the interior of the book on the cover there, you know, donated by someone that attended the Jackie Robinson talk. For more information about the project, I'm just going to share with you Richard and Barry's email. They gave me permission to do so. Through the project has had many offshoots. One of them being that the project itself started and ended up with a class entitled Jackie Robinson, More Than a Ball Player, and a number of students at George Washington have taken that sociology course. And in turn, those students created the Jackie Robinson Society, a student-run organization of which the students changed the name to the Jackie and Rachel Robinson Society. They are a student group that meets and has an event once a year to promote the legacy of Robinson. Another aspect is the educational initiative, which has now has talked about Robinson's life and legacy to well over 200 plus teachers and administrators in various schools. I think it's well over 7,000 students have been exposed to Robinson's post-baseball career through the initiative. And the initiative also has, I didn't even take it out of its cover. The initiative, well, those on PowerPoint can't even see this, but
Yeah, if you hold it up.
hold it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can,
Okay.
you can see yourself, right?
Oh, okay. I can see myself. Yes.
Yeah.
We created a Jackie Robinson project, created a video, a DVD on Robinson, and also a book on Robinson, More Than a Ball Player. And it's a young adults book. And the book is also in Spanish as well. So, and I'd like to present this to you from the project
Thank
to
you
you,
so
Elaine.
much. Thank you so much.
So I'll entertain any questions. There was a whole lot that I left out, but you know, time is.
I wanted to give a shout out to Michael Frank. He did say Move One, and I didn't see the chat.
Oh,
So
okay. And I know Michael, he's a good Sabre member. So I figured a Sabre member would down to,
Yes,
thank you,
so
Michael. Yeah,
kudos to you.
yes.
Yeah, so why don't we start with questions from our live audience, and then we'll go to our Zoom group. Okay, so does anybody?
Wait a minute. Does that mean our Zoom group is not live?
No,
Live?
I
Oh,
meant
okay.
it's easier for me to moderate questions from in person. Does anybody in our in-person group have any questions for John? It was just such a wonderful. First, I want to just.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
But do we have any questions from our in-person audience before we hear from our Zoom? Any comments? Questions or comments?
Yeah, did Jackie Robinson get the presidential Medal of Honor from Richard Nixon?
The Medal of Freedom.
Medal of Freedom? I don't know.
Whatever it's called.
May have stumped, I don't know. I would have
He
to,
did.
I would have to look that up.
Did he have children or any family members who carry on his legacy?
Yes, Sharon Robinson does, and I'm just gonna fast forward. Oh, that was my stuff. Yeah, if anybody wants my email, there it is. I'm talking with the late Bill Robinson there, the man who was tagged as the next Mickey Mantle, and that's one of the worst things you can do to somebody.
Yeah.
Who's a New York Yankee, but he had a blossoming baseball career with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Takes off the pressure. That's also, if you want to see my television show, You can go to wpcommunitymedia.org. Okay, forgive me, this is blatant advertising. And the gentleman I'm speaking there is Don Buford, who played with the Baltimore Orioles in '66. They were in the World Series. And this discussion that we had simply went from USC football, which was a halfback, but we also had a discussion of integrating Sally. Buford had some incidents in the South Atlantic League as a minor leaguer. He just shared a whole mess of stuff. And I also wanted to give a shout out or thank you to Elaine, Catherine, and Dick Forliano for this opportunity at the public library. I'm going to just fast forward. Yes, you mentioned, Barbara, you mentioned his family. That is his immediate family. Sharon on the far left there does really carry on Jackie's legacy. That is through the Jackie Robinson Foundation, which provides scholarship to students. And Rachel, I don't know if she's still going to the foundation, but was still involved with it. David is, well, Jackie Jr. unfortunately has passed. And David is over in Africa. He is a coffee grower, and his coffee is Sweet Unity coffee. It is the Cabernet of coffee. I tried to have David on my show. We just couldn't work out our schedules. However, I did have on my doorstep a package, and that contains Sweet Unity coffee. And I have to say, indeed, it is the Cabernet of coffee. So,
Can it be purchased here?
yeah, yes, it
Where
can.
would you get it here?
I would believe, well, one, we probably could do it online too. I would not be shocked if it's in some of the
I could look
Whole
up for your
Foods.
program. We
Yeah.
can Google it and see what
Yeah,
you find.
but that's, he really has carved out that aspect of being a farmer and also involved with the Pan-African movement. So, yes,
I'm not clear. Is Rachel still alive?
yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
Isn't she about 100 or so?
Are there any contemporary writers beside Mitch Helson who you would recommend for sports writers and sports historians?
Sports historians that can immediately come to mind. In fact, he's giving me a talk tonight as well. He's over in Jersey. He's a lawyer too. He's been on my show. However, he's written books, whereas I'm a contributing writer and I'm in books writing passages for editors. David Krell. And David his latest book is Do You Believe in Magic? And it focuses on the Baltimore Orioles, but 1966. His previous book was 1962. And David wrote about that baseball season, as well as what is going on in America at that time. And he is a true cultural historian because he's also written, oh gosh, Yankee in popular culture, New York Yankees in popular culture. So that book is looking at television, films. He's done the same thing with the New York Mets. So if we're talking about somebody that merges the worlds of athletics with what's going on in our society, it's pretty impressive. He runs the Northern New Jersey chapter of Society of American Baseball Researchers, and that he comes immediately to mind.
Conrad's here, David, and we both knew Robert Kramer, who's a big student.
Oh, yeah.
But unfortunately, he's no longer here.
No,
David Krell was the guy.
David Krell and yeah, Robert Kramer,
Yeah, do you have, since you're from White Plains and I am as well, do you have any information on one Charles Hipp Sr., who played in the Negro League? He told me he batted against Satchel Paige. He's been gone,
Oh.
quite a number of years. He owned, Charlie's, auto body shop on Ferris Avenue.
Yeah.
It's now owned by different people.
No, I don't know, but after this talk, I'll go look it up,
Charles have
you know.
seen that.
Yeah. I know, I know the late, and if we're here in the town of Eastchester, the late Joe Gulia. Now I've forgotten what college he went to.
Cornell.
Joe went to Cornell? Okay, now I don't know if I know that he relayed a story to me, and I don't know whether he was a player or whether he was a spectator. But there was a game played by the Cornell varsity baseball team against Satchel Paige. And the first batter up got a hit, got on base, turned to his teammates and said, "This guy ain't so hard to hit." And then that was it. Their bats went silent. Paige, I guess.
Phil Jackson's autobiography, he talks about batting against Satchel Paige as a young guy when Satchel was touring with some,
Bill Jackson.
yeah, I think in Maverick,
There's more to discover.
There's more, absolutely. Well, that's the thing about history. You got to keep, you
Exactly.
keep finding stuff. I mean, you never know. I mean, what just happened today? I just saw something. Oh yeah. Scripture. Somebody put it under ultraviolet light. And I forgot the source, but the point is they've discovered some, and I forgot which book of the Bible, but they found some sort of passages that are at variance to what we have currently in this book of the Bible. So that was in Yahoo News. So please,
Okay.
someone can Google that. What's he talking about exactly? But that was just reported today and hasn't sunk in. The brain synapses haven't drawn it in to my memory. Yeah. Yeah, Howard.
Yeah, I want to do a little advertising if I may, and he can back it up because he was president of this group. Stephen DeVillo did a presentation here.
Yes.
And if you missed it, it's terrific. He's doing it on May 7th at the Jacob Purdy House in White Plains.
Wonderful.
So
And
put it on your calendar.
ours was recorded, so
Yes.
it's on, and it was, the sound was a little low, but it wasn't as bad when we played it back. So you can
Okay.
still, if you have to miss the other one too, at least it is on our website.
Okay, that's
He's
great.
wonderful. We were just talking about him before.
And his book is excellent.
Book is excellent. We have it here, the libraries, the library.
You have his book, The History of the Bronx River.
Yeah, so let me just wrap this
Yeah.
up, but I want to thank John so much for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
And we look forward to having you back again. I said we're going to be undergoing a renovation, so our room will be more accommodating.